Hey, this is Matt O'Leary, and it's time for the fourth album on my list of 10 2010s albums that made me. These are 10 albums that really represent my taste from end to end, and I just really want to shout them out and have a chance to talk about them on the show. So that's what we're doing. Right around the beginnings of my channel, I stuck an album at the number 13 spot on my top albums of the year. Didn't think too much of it, like the album, but just number 13. Looking back, I think 2016 was one of the best years for music in the past 10, 15, even 20 years. And this album probably deserved to land at the 4 or 5 spot. And in terms of just replayability, this is probably one of my most played albums of the last 10 years. And that is guitarist William Tyler's album, Modern Country. William Tyler plays a very virtuosic but not overly flashy kind of roots revival thing. It's folk, country, instrumental guitar music that's very melodic and also emblematic of the American West. And right from the start, right from that very resonant, very humble picking on Highway Anxiety, Modern Country becomes a record that can both set a mood and accompany a mood like a fine wine. Born of a panic attack on the highway, this first track really exudes this sense of acceptance, of just faced reality. Its plotting progression eventually opens the door to more musicians who tell their side of the story, bringing more and more vibrance with each entrance. And the bass guitar is amazing, bending and buzzing at all the right times and then hanging back when, the other instruments want to take the lead. The almost Steve Gadd-esque drum part sets this highway driving pace with this slow and steady build. Really the easiest 8-minute listen of your life. Like really this is the driving song. While the second track, I'm Gonna Live Forever If It Kills Me, kicks things into gear, giving you the sense of modernization with that drum track at the beginning, the synth part at the beginning that eventually gives way to the down-home country acoustic. The melodies and vibes bounce from carefree to incredibly poignant and serious. It's so expertly arranged, it's so expertly pieced together, every moment so melodically and texturally interesting. As piano stabs and synthetic layers and these very jaunty percussion parts just punctuate the rising ebbs. Texturally, my favorite moment on the album, and probably the apex of the record, is the 5th track, Gone Clear, which just has an intensity about it, unlike anything to this point. The low bass drone is complemented by the tinkling treble of the guitar line. Then this killer call and response melody hits around 2 minutes, and it just feels like an arrival point. But the best of this song is yet to come, and boy howdy is it a beaut. This huge thick bass thud, do, and everything just drops out. Then these terrifying chimes come in, just panning back and forth, and you got this hammer-on electric guitar part, and it's just it's just a jaw-dropping moment, like mixing-wise and arrangement-wise. Just put on headphones and soak that song in, Gone Clear. And of course, at the end of the song, the main theme melody comes back. It really has the feeling of this climactic standoff in an old Western. I don't think William was necessarily going for something that obvious or that cliche, but something with equally intense emotion. Meanwhile, less heavy but equally luscious tracks, Sunken Garden and Albion Moonlight, just glue the whole experience together with a much more tried and true American primitivism sound. This is actually an album that sent me back in time to listen to guitarists like John Fahey and Leo Kottke, especially Kottke, who were some of the forefathers of the American primitive guitar music movement back in the 60s and 70s. And while those guys are kind of famous for, or at least Fahey is famous for not wanting to be connected to it, it's impossible not to connect that sound from the 60s and 70s to what was going on in the 1980s with the New Age movement. I've heard it called New Acoustic. Most notably the label Windham Hill, which had artists like William Ackerman and Alex DeGrassi. So coming full circle now, I can thank William Tyler for getting me into music like that and all sorts of discoveries from back in time, And it's also a type of music that my father-in-law really loves, so I've really bonded and connected with him over that. And getting back to modern country, what I love most about this album, besides the music, pretty much every note, is that it has this ability to be equally fulfilling both as an ambient mood-setting album and as something that is more actively engaged and, taken in with more careful listening, which mirrors the American West, actually. You can drive through Montana and you can just take it in. You can just passively sort of enjoy the beauty and the splendor and the grandeur of it all and the serenity of nature. Or you can more actively engage with the American West and the land and the people that moved through it, and more philosophically just how you ought to think about man's relationship to nature and to the land and all those things. If you haven't heard of this record, if you haven't heard of William Tyler or any of the other artists I mentioned, I definitely recommend this one as a starting point. It's just excellent. And that's it. That is another album on my list of 10 2010s albums that made me. I'm going to link some of those other videos here after, I stop babbling. And as always, thank you so much for watching.